Okay, everybody, you're on.
We're on candid camera.
So, well, the first question is if you could tell us your parents' names, and we'll start with that. Graham, you can go first.
Well, my father's name was Frank Soroka, and my mother's name was Margaret. I don't know what my mother's middle name was. All I know it remembers Margaret. She was not. I was the youngest one in the family, and she was a. She was. I don't know how to put it, but she was not. You were more on your own than as far as her providing guidance. Even when you went to school, you know. Of course, they were from the old country, and they were you weren't that close to your. They weren't that close to your children. As or what? Now you talk about the Jesneys. Yasanauskas.
Well, Dad's original name was Yasnauskas, spelled with a J. And Mom's name was Novak, Novak. And so I had a lot of trouble with my passports and everything. They think I made an error because I put Novak and Nowak. And anyhow, but they too met here after the old country.
What was your mom's name? You said it was Novak, but what was her first name?
Margaret.
Margaret.
And Dad's name was Wally. And I guess when I was born, they wanted a boy, so they named me Laura Wally. So, but then Mom, they had a hard time. They read through life, they had a hard time. My mom worked very, very hard. But she still was a honey.
Just like you.
My dad, he was, I'd say, a little bit of a bad boy.
That's where Greg gets it from.
I don't think so.
I'm
I agree.
Grandpa, how many brothers and sisters?
Well, I had 7 brothers and sisters, right? Yeah. So we one.
Not counting the one that died.
Yeah, not counting. He died from diphtheria. At that particular time, when you had a contagious disease, the Board of Health came out and put they put a red plaque on your house, and you weren't supposed to go in or out. You were confined to the residence for usually around 30 days. If you had scarlet fever or diphtheria, that's how serious it was, because they didn't have the antibiotics that they have today. So when you had a contagious disease, the Board of Health came out and put a red notice on your house that it was closed to. You weren't supposed to go in or out. You were confined to the residence for 30 days or so. But and they were pretty strict about that too. You couldn't. My best friend Bob Rizicki, when he got it, and I thought it was unique that the doctor prescribed Cubab cigarettes, and I don't know, I never heard of them, but even though you were 10 or 12 years old or 9, you could smoke these cigarettes for but I never heard of anybody. I never heard of anybody adhering to that later. But well, anyway, Bob was my best friend, and I couldn't go in. I couldn't. He had scarlet fever, so I couldn't go into his house. But
he survived.
Huh?
But he survived.
oh yeah, but my brother Leonard, that he had diphtheria. He died from diphtheria. I don't know how old he was,
You better get back to your brother's names and your sister's.
but I know his name was Leonard. I remember. I don't. Of course, I didn't. I think he died before I was born. I don't know. Graham and I grew up in the same neighborhood within 2 blocks of each other, and I kind of remember vaguely when I was out in the front of the house, and she went to the grade school about 2 blocks from our house. So she would walk past our house, her and Frances. And Frances was a colored girl. There weren't, at that particular time, there weren't hardly any colored people in anybody's neighborhood. But Frances did come, but Laura and Frances were very good friends.
How old were you when the first time you remember?
Huh?
How old would you have been the first time you probably remember Grandma?
Oh, I don't know much about her until she started to work at Mrs. George's. She was and we used to put everything on the. We had a charge there that all the young fellas did, and you paid on payday. Cigarettes were a penny a piece, and ice cream cones, of course, were double dips were a nickel. And I noticed, I didn't know Grandma was even interested in me that much, so my ice cream cones were a little bit larger than anybody else's. And then too, sometimes she wasn't that strict about keeping the books up for my account.
Grandma.
She was actually working for somebody like Endrian at that time. She kept her own books. But
You've been paying on those books.
of course, I didn't know it at the time. But now that she takes care of her own shared draft checkbook, some of that is rubbed off on her even today.
Grandpa.
What's the earliest you remember Grandpa?
Huh?
To Grandma. What?
In the candy store. That's when I met him. The guys always hung out there. And his grandpa said they always ran up a bill. They never paid their bill until payday. And
How old?
candy and pop.
How old would you have been then? 16? 14?
I was still in high school.
I started
From
to.
the 11th grade, I'd say.
I was already working for Hudson Motor Car Company as a mailboy. So I had a job, and my salary was $65 a month. But like I say, none of the other kids, none of my friends even had jobs, or if they did, they were working on a production line for automobile companies like Packard and usually Packard, because that was the closest automobile company.
Graham, how many brothers and sisters do you have? Did you have?
Me?
Yeah, Graham.
Oh, I just had the one sister. Helen was my only one. Yeah, it was just the two of us.
Since I was the youngest one, I was never. We were never close brothers and sisters. You know, there was a big span between our lives.
Well, there was too many before you.
Well, how old was your oldest brother then?
Oh, my oldest brother, Joe.
How many years older would he have been than you?
I'm trying to think. Offhand, gee,
It's a hard question.
20.
I'm trying to think. Offhand, I can't remember how old Joe was. He was really Joe was kind of a hard man. He didn't. When his family came along, he ruled with iron hand. My oldest brother. But
Then Jack was next.
Huh?
Was Jack next or Benny?
Jack was next. His name was really Frank. He was named after my father, but we always called him Jack. I don't know why, but it was. But I remember. I never thought about it, but God, there must have been a long time between me and Joe. But I can't even. I don't want to guess because I could be so far off. But.
How about then Benny was next? Or
Yeah,
Ted?
Benny was next,
Then Tim?
then Ted.
Then
Oh.
Clara, then Ann.
No, Ann was the oldest. Ann
Ann
was,
was older. All right.
yeah, Ann was right after Joe, really. It was easy to remember my, not my oldest sister, because she was born in 1900.
Yeah.
So that between, there was 17 years difference between Clara and me, because I was born in 1917 and she was born in 1900. But Clara was, I don't know, Clara must have been, Ann must be 4 years, about 3 or 4 years older than, Ann must have been 3 or 4 years older than Clara. But I can remember Clara's birthday because it was 1900. So there was 17. There must have been 20 years difference between me and Joe and I. I'd say approximately 20 years. But it's so hard for you guys to think about us, but Christmas trees at that time, you had, they didn't have Christmas tree lights like today. Some of the Christmas trees had candles on them. How come we never burned the whole city down? I'll never know.
Neither.
Because that's the truth. The Christmas trees had little holders with candles in them. And of course, I don't hardly ever remember the Christmas trees being lit. But like our big radio didn't work on electricity. It had an automobile battery.
What were your favorite childhood memories?
Mine?
Mhm.
Oh, I don't know. Childhood.
Mhm.
Kids never got what you get today. We never had. I remember getting a scooter, and that was, I guess, the biggest present I ever got at Christmas. Other than that, we used to take our old roller skates apart and put them on a 2x4 and put a 2x4 up to handle on. But
Make their own
Make your own
scooter.
scooter.
I remember my father going down, and we went to Hudson's downtown, and he bought me a bicycle. We went on a streetcar, that was a happy day. But but as far as buying clothes, Clara never bought me clothes. Ann always did. But I don't think my mother liked for my sister to take me down because she had expensive taste. She used to buy me, more expensive things.
And did have good taste.
I don't know. I wish I knew more about my mother and father when they were first married. I didn't know till I don't know. Remember when I found that out that my mother and father had a grocery store? I didn't know that, and I do remember them always talking about. We lived close to St. Stanislaus Church, and I know that when we bought this house, bought our house on Iroquois, the nuns took over our house. Laura, godmother was a nun, very religious woman, very, I don't know, very up. You could never meet anybody like her today. And Laura used to,
Was that Sister Agatha?
huh?
Yeah.
That was Sister Agatha?
Sister Agatha.
Yeah. And Sister Agatha used to worry about Laura, and she used to always ask me to take care. She said, "You got to take care of Laura and make sure she goes to church and everything." And it was just the opposite. Laura became a little bit more not religious, but her commitment to the faith was stronger than mine, really. That's, I guess, after we were married, I could never think of not going to church because Laura was always ready before me to go to church. So.
But he'd never missed Mass. He never missed Mass in his life, hardly.
How did Grandpa propose to you?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Oh boy. I don't even remember the proposal.
We were kind of committed to each other from when we were going to high school, in the early part of that year.
Well, you were out. I was
But
in high school yet when we met.
I was one of the more fortunate young men because at least I had a job, and jobs were scarce and hard. You didn't. Boys and that really. Most of them didn't have jobs. I also worked at the candy store on weekends. I used to mop the floors, and I used to.
Remember that?
Huh?
I don't remember that.
Oh yeah, because I used to work for. I got $1 for mopping the whole floor, and straightening out the pop bottles in the basement. I used to get $1 from Mrs. George.
So you just knew you were going to get married? You don't really remember the proposal?
Or are you guys just still going steadying?
I don't actually know how all of a sudden we were buying rings.
Well, then your father says, to you, give him back that ring and I'll buy you one twice as big.
Really?
He must have thought I was getting married for the ring. I don't know what his idea was, but that was a no-sell.
Mm-hmm. Graham, what's some of your favorite childhood memories?
I guess Mom, we didn't have very much at all. I never had a bike, two-wheel bike. I I used the boy next doors. And, other than that, one Christmas, I'll always remember that. I wanted a desk. She bought me a desk with a roller top.
Oh,
And then they put oranges and fruit in the drawers and all over just to make it Christmassy or something, you know. And I always remember that. That was the best Christmas I ever had when I was young. I remember that.
No, I guess our relationship, there was nothing. I guess as far as young couples, I don't know how you guys operate now with your friends, but as far as partying or that, as a group, we used to go out on weekends and that.
When we were first married, we lived at my mother's house and I was selling all over the place I was born. And it was like a kitchen, and at the end of the kitchen there were 3 walls and you shove a bed in it.
It was like a studio apartment.
You couldn't even get an end
house.
table in there. The bed fit there and that was it. And then you had a drape across. I mean, it was, when I think of how we lived. And I bought blue and white chintz curtains, remember that? Chintz stuff, and I put it all around the kitchen sink so you could see the pipes underneath, you know. The home was rolled, you know, that was a very old house. And we had company up there, but we had another room beside that. We had like a living room. But other than that, the kitchen and the bedroom were just connected, so our bureau drawers even and the closet were in the living room area, you know. It was,
you've come a long way.
oh, God, yes.
You what?
We came a long way from that house.
Yeah, we moved into it.
Then we moved on Harding,
That was the upper flat.
5177 Harding, I'll never forget that. And we had company come over to that house, and it got so hot in the summertime that I had candy in a bowl and all melted.
It's hot.
It
You
was,
could just see the raisins in the chocolate.
you know, it was,
Some things never change. You still have candy in bowls everywhere.
but do you know, we laughed, and when we got down to where if you had one bottle of beer in the house and company came over, like especially Bob, we'd
my
serve it
best
in whiskey
friend, yeah.
glasses. And we'd laugh, but we had good times. Didn't,
A lot of beer came in quarts at that time.
I would like those times.
Is that bottles? Like bottled beer in a quart?
We used to drink in a shot glass of beer. I don't
So
know
was
that.
Graham wild? Did Grandma dance on tables?
Huh?
Did Grandma dance on tables?
Did you what?
did I dance on the table?
No.
Was I wild?
Did you put lampshades on your head, Grandpa?
No, we were always pretty serious after we got married.
I don't know, our Stay Young Club was kind of wild.
Oh yeah, that was, we belonged to Stay Young Club. We were just talking the other day that,
God.
some of them, our friends were pretty well to do. They lived in Grosse Pointe on Lockmore, had beautiful homes, and the guy that built our house, he didn't belong to our club though. But Isabel and Rayleigh, their name was Latham, and they both passed away, but his son has the dealership in Grosse Pointe,
The really from dealership.
and Bogdansky's, that he was a dentist by trade, but he could play about 4 or 5 instruments, and he was better than Wayne Newton.
He played
And he
a lot
used to
of that.
entertain. He gave up being a dentist to entertain at in the nightclubs in St. Clair and Grosse Pointe.
But Raymond, they're asking questions and you're
Oh, yeah.
rambling on.
Oh, yes, I am.
Not really. It's open ended, which
All right.
is
Well,
Actually, you said you lived in Harding. We wanted to know, where did you live next? What did you guys?
We managed to save how Raymond says we will not buy a house where we have a big mortgage. So we managed to save $5,000.
whatever it was, but we only had a
$3,000 mortgage, and he was worried about that.
Well, who the hell knows what's going to happen? You know, we were governed by growing up in a depression.
Mm-hmm.
If, today,
His sister lost her home for taxes, right?
for mortgage payment,
Mortgage payment.
and Ann lost her home for mortgage payments. But that's, I don't want to be a creep hanger.
But that's why he was very concerned about not
Well,
having a big mortgage.
We had to be careful. But our mortgage,
the bright lights.
That's a good
Grandma was always a good manager.
idea. Yes, she is.
Well, we didn't have,
It
I
wasn't
don't know
for
if
him.
anybody had a charge account. We didn't have charge accounts in
No,
that.
we didn't have charging.
So it was easier to determine where you were at. Because you only had so much money and you knew what the hell the bills were.
What were the highlights? What are the highlights of your life? What are the things that you?
I guess I remember mostly before we moved, and Karen was only about 8 or 9 months old or so, and Grandma was a good dresser then. I always see, compared to other girls or ladies, women, she was about the prettiest, you know. But I guess at that time, I probably wasn't as appreciative as I should have been, as I am today when I think about it, you know. Because, but that was about the best time of our life when we were buying that house.
But I think we did a lot of traveling.
I thought so.
And that was a nice thing, you know. We enjoyed that. But I think our Poland trip was our best #1 trip we ever had. That was #1.
Well, I
And we've
remember.
been all over. I mean, we were to Hawaii. We were on a Mediterranean cruise. We were on a regular cruise. We went to on our Mediterranean cruise. We were to Gibraltar and Mallorca.
With Acapulco.
And I don't know if that was was Acapulco part of our trip?
No,
on our
no, that
Mediterranean.
we went to Mexico separate.
The Acapulco trip was just the regular cruise.
We went to Mexico, bit like separate. We went to Mexico City and Acapulco, and I forget some city in Mexico that sold silver.
Yes.
Our first trip, when we went to Las Vegas, they didn't, it wasn't a jet, it was a propeller-driven plane. And it was like 6 or 7 hours to go to Las Vegas by plane. It
Wow.
It was our first plane trip. Well, I was scared to death.
But it wasn't a jet, it was a propeller plane. I don't know how many passengers, but I was trying to think of where we stayed. But anyway, we went with another couple. We went with Steve and Bernice Pitline.
And then when Ford sent him to England, we managed to get to Paris and Scotland. And where else, Raymond?
Oh, we went to Switzerland and Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
We went to Switzerland. We went to Italy. We went to Vatican. We went to Paris 2 or 3 times on a when I had a long weekend. We went to Paris, and Grandma is not she didn't trust me to know where the hell I was going when we went to Paris a couple of times, and of course I didn't know either. We just went on our own, and we didn't. When we got to the airport, we just showed the guy name of the hotel, and he took us there. We didn't.
It worked out good.
Yeah. But one thing, always remember at that time, the taxi cab in Paris were known to overcharge Americans, and I know we got stopped by the Paris police once, and he wanted to know where we were picked up and where we were going, how much we were paying. He used to kind of watch that with, like overcharging Americans. That was another mistake I made. All I was interested was when we went to Paris to go to the Paris nightclubs. I didn't care about the cultural part.
Bernie, it was about 3 o'clock in the morning. We were on this bus, and he had taken us to a couple of nightclubs, and then they were going to go for this. What was it? Onion soup?
Yeah, in
Something
Paris.
Yeah, some kind of
It
special.
was in a red light district.
But it was, and they said, anyone who wants to go, we're going to stop, and that. And Bernice looked at me, she says, Laura, I don't know about you, but I'm going to just stay on the bus, let the guys go, and you go if you want, I says, no, I'll stay with you, let the guys go. Those guys could have been picked up by, women were lined up, come on, but it was in a bad district, but they said the soup was very good. They come back, but we were so tired by then.
Yeah, that was a long day.
Oh, it was a long
That was a good deal, though. They, you signed up for a tour at the hotel, and it was like $150, but it was dinner and nightclub at 2 of the leading nightclubs in Paris. One was the Moulin Rouge, and the other one was the Steve Paris or something like. I forget what the name of it was.
I want to get back to the house on Seminole. You were on Iroquois, and you had about the same kind of house.
Yeah, we still used to argue who was bigger.
Oh no, I think yours was bigger.
No, we changed now.
But the thing is that we had wooden floors in the kitchen. I mean, they were not the hardwood floor like they had. We scrubbed it with a brush, Then when everything was clean, we put newspapers on top, and so that anybody come in, they wouldn't dirty it. But somehow the print never came off of that newspaper like that, like it does now. I don't understand that part, because I was thinking, I'd never put newspapers on my floor now. It would, the paper, heck, in your hands, you read the paper and you get it off. But somehow or other, we put it with newspaper. Then, when we knew company was coming, we'd either straighten the newspapers, or else we'd pick them all up and sweep the floor, and the house was all clean again. But it's just so we didn't have to wash that floor every day.
Nobody had
a refrigerator. It was an
nobody had a
icebox.
refrigerator. We had an Iceman, and he used to come like every second day.
And just about everybody had what they call a walk-in pantry. And our ice box was in there. I can still see that thing. It was a varnished thing, made of wood, but it was an ice box.
We leave,
Metal inside, I guess.
we get 25 pounds or 50 pounds ice every second or third day.
You know, to keep
If we came on a third day, we would get 50. I don't know how much. We paid. We paid about a week or the month for the Iceman, and that was on our back porch. But then, like Laura, most of all the houses at that time had pretty big basements, so most of the fathers knocked out a wall and they built a pantry for canned goods or stuff in the
basement.
in the basement. But that took the place of a refrigerator because it would be cold down in the basement, but it was right in the earth. There wasn't no walls or anything. But refrigerators, man, I can't. I don't understand how we could live without a refrigerator.
I know.
It'd be like camping all the time.
I know. No television, just radio.
Well, then the radios weren't nothing.
We listened to Amos and Andy.
Oh yeah, Amos and Andy was the big deal.
And on Sundays, from the Shrine of the Little Flower, was it? Father Conklin.
Father Coughlin.
Mm-hmm.
The bishops or the Pope actually made Father Coughlin. They were instrumental in getting him off the air because he was very anti-Jewish and very.
But everybody listened to him.
Because he was always chasing the money changers out of the church on Sundays. My dad used to always listen to him.
Now, Grandma, your mom was Lithuanian. Your mom was Lithuanian, and your dad. No, they're both Lithuanian. Did they speak Lithuanian at home or English?
They did quite a bit. And when they tried to teach me, she'd say, tell me to go to the drawer and get me a shauksta. And I thought, shauksta. I go to the drawer and I couldn't remember whether it was a fork or a knife or what, you know. And I'd bring the wrong one. I got slapped across the back of my head. And finally I convinced her that she's got to learn English.
That was smart.
When I went to school. So they weren't able to help us with any of our education because they had none.
Here's the hardest question. What are you the most proud of that you've done?
Karen.
She
is, we were telling us today that we couldn't have, I'm going to cry when I think of it. I love her so much. There isn't a daughter in this world that does as much for us as she does. She's beautiful. And then she gave us two beautiful boys and a beautiful girl. And they take right after her. They're as good to us. They're as good to us as we're so proud of you guys. I don't know how to express it. The most wonderful children, I tell everybody, and I know they're sick of hearing it. But it's true. And Jerry, he's been so good. I don't know of any other guy that would put up with everything. You know what I mean? Whatever Karen says, he goes along with. He doesn't care. And he's happy. He's so happy with the kids being there. He plays with them. I think it's just wonderful that she made a good change. There's moments they probably have, just,
Oh, well,
just
you-
like, like him and I. But,
No, I don't want to ask that question now.
what?
Did you go to your dad's place yesterday?
That doesn't come in now.
No.
So, but she is a gem. She puts herself out for everybody.
No, we had some rough times though when during our marriage, particularly when I got drafted. Took 6 Irish cops and a bulldozer to get me to go. I wasn't much for going to the service. And
Were you married then?
Yeah.
Yeah. We lived on Harding, and I went to Briggs Manufacturing Company and worked as Rosie the Riveter during the time that he was in the service. And then I took some time off to meet him in California, and because he got rheumatic fever, is what they, and so he was actually, they kept him there.
oh no, I got that.
That
got
came
that.
towards the end, huh?
That was in Corleen, Idaho, when I was in boot camp that I got sick.
Yeah.
And then they sent me to a rehab place in Corona, California.
So, but then I went to see him. The train was just, all the trains, buses, everything was loaded because people were traveling back and forth at that time. And I tipped the guy. At that time, it was a lot of money. I gave him $5 to save me a seat on the train. And he grabbed my suitcases and he went with them. And I says, and I'll give you another $5 when I get there. I thought that'll save him right away with my suitcases. So I gave him $10, but he got me a seat with a pillow. People were sleeping in the aisleways. It was so crowded.
You're so smart.
I was
You're
getting
smart.
Yes, it just paid. That $10 was well worth it. Because I had to sleep overnight on the plane. I mean, on the train. And then Ray found a house that we could, wasn't it you that
the Red
found
Cross got you a common. The hotel was a bit expensive, so
So they got us a bed and board or something they call
yeah,
it.
at the some people's house in Corona, but it was like instead of $6 or $7 a day, it was like $7 a week.
It was
I don't know
so
how much-
reasonable. But the only thing is that the sheets were so thin. And I noticed as soon as we got, into bed, and the next day, I felt so embarrassed because the sheets were all torn. They couldn't stand any movement, it seemed, And that I thought, my God, what are they going to think?
Maybe you sleep like Karen does, toss and turn and roll.
Well, I was getting $28 a month, and Gamera was getting $52. Being married, that was our service pay. She was getting $52, and I got $28 a month. So, but it's when we used to hitchhike to California, to Long Beach. We used to hitchhike, but because it was $1.35, as I remember, for a bus trip to go by bus to California. So we used to hitchhike, her and I.
But really, Grandpa and I both feel that we are so lucky the way things turned out with the boys and Michelle. All of you seem to be doing real well, and we're so happy we're part of it. So many parents grandparents especially, don't get that chance with the children like we do. We're there for every occasion and that. And some, if they see them once a year, that's it, you know. We're just so lucky. And that they call, you know, even that they make a phone call. And Christine, you know, you're in your car and you call from there. I enjoy that.
Me too.
And we chit chat like,
Girlfriends.
yeah, really, it is so nice.
Grandma lets me brag about the kids.
You've got something to brag about there too.
Getting back to my parents, you know, my father came from Poland, and he was, I guess I told you that, he was only 2 steps ahead of the Russian army to get drafted into the Russian army. And that's why him and his brother took off for America, because they didn't want any part of being in a Russian army. But I don't know too much about where my dad met my mother. I guess it was here in the States, but I don't know. Somebody told me that
She was a boarder at the house, I understand.
she was 15 years old when they got married or something.
Oh, I don't know that.
That's what I heard, but I don't know. I should have asked more questions.
From
about
the age of your brother to you, they would have had to have started very early.
Yeah, really.
Mhm.
They were very, very young.
Now, I'm assuming they spoke Polish at home most of the
They
time?
what?
They spoke Polish at home most of the time? Or
Well, yes, since I was the younger one, they were already being influenced more by being an American. Than they become Americans more. They adapted the American way of life better than some of the minorities are today. Uh, uh, when they adapted the customs over here, they changed easier than some of the minorities are today. When my mother used to send me to the store when I was maybe 8 or 9 years old, my mother would say, she'd tell me what to get in Polish, and I would say, "Oh, what do you want?" I said, "I don't know what you're talking about." So it became that she always talked to me in English and not Polish. So I didn't learn the Polish I should have.
No. I didn't learn the Lithuanian, I should have either. Both Mom and Dad still had, like, they spoke a little broken, you know, but pretty darn good, I swear. Dad didn't notice, did you? And my dad, when he spoke English? Did you notice anything with him?
Oh yeah, he was. His English was more. He had some of the Lithuanian dialect in it more than even my mother and father.
But Mom was good.
Your mother what?
My mother was pretty good.
Oh yeah, yeah.
She spoke very fluently, I thought. But Dad could speak Polish and Lithuanian and the English. You know, he learned the English now. I didn't appreciate him in that sense. You know what I mean? At that time, I'm thinking about it in that. Just that he had a drinking problem.
My mother, my grandmother came to live with us, and she was 90-some years old, and we had an upstairs, and I guess, I don't know, she was 90 and she fell down the stairs, and that's how come she passed. Well, she due to the accident, it hastened her death falling down the the stairs like that. But Grandma knew her, and you knew my grandmother, didn't you?
Very little though, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't long.
She used to be sitting in the living room all the time saying a rosary. And I think, I go to the house, why couldn't I been at least, wish her a good day or something? I never talked to her. That was really,
Well, Raymond, I don't know. Things are a little different now. I think one of being 8 kids in the family, that it was hard for him to do things on his own because he was on his own. He didn't have a lot of. Everybody was older than him.
yeah, I
The only
was,
time he got the attention is when he needed something, to wear in that. He never did like his communion shoes. I always think about that.
oh,
He got brown shoes, I think.
they were blue with a light blue stripe in them. And one thing the nun says, for your first Holy Communion, they gotta be black shoes, no matter what. And mine had that blue, and how I worried about that.
What, for your great grandkids, 5 now?
My what?
Yes, absolutely.
5 great grandchildren?
5 beautiful, beautiful great grandchildren.
What can you offer them in the way of advice for the future? What can you tell them that?
Words of wisdom.
What would be your words of wisdom to them?
You gotta,
Always to remember, I'll be first on this. Always to remember that it's an old saying, but you catch more bees with honey. Be as sweet and nice to everybody as you can, and you get that same respect back. You don't get it. If you have a temperament, if you get angry, that's the only thing I think is so important. You get the love. You only get the love that you give, and the help that you give.
I think traditionally though, women are that women or mothers are the glue that holds the families together. And Grandma she's not one to go over the deep end. She thinks things through and takes it easy. She don't make hasty decisions like I would. If somebody says mean things to us, I would get back at them. But not Laura. She's more. She'll take it out, or she'll say that, well, those are things that they said, but they said it in haste, or they didn't. They didn't retaliate with any mean. Like me, I would be more apt to say, well, I'll get even with you, man. She's. I've learned a lot from Grandma about that. She's more patient.
Well,
And
just forgiving, Raymond. People always say things that they don't mean, and I even saying to you, but 2 minutes later, it's like I never got mad,
I noticed that, but I didn't want to say nothing.
But sometimes he still stays mad, and I think,
Me?
well, yeah, when I tried to get you out of it, and I get you mad at me because of what I say, and then all of a sudden I think to myself, how am I going to get him out of this mess?
Our life has never been that. I think that I believe that faith has a lot to do with your destiny. I don't think I don't think you select everything in life that's the way it's going to be. I think I just stood back and I went with the tide, you know. I feel that I could have done better in life if I had applied myself, but I never was much for that. I had a lot of opportunities to really better myself, but I just took life as it was. Whatever came along, I could have had a lot more. I had a lot of opportunities to go to school. I never took them. But I was satisfied with my plight the way it was, you know. While I wasn't much for going to school. When I did have a job, I was very serious and applied myself. I never, when I went to work, I never waited for the whistle to blow or the bell to ring. When I came in, I started to review things of what happened on the afternoon shift or whatever. I didn't shun my duties at work, but I could have done better by going to school.
We never had college like you kids, and we never thought about college.
Well,
Our parents never could afford college, you know, and so that was just after high school. We just went and looked for a job, and luckily, I took shorthand and typing, and that came in handy.
well, we're just about out of time, right?
Pretty close. I've got two questions. Grandpa, where are all the you worked at Hudson,
Hudson Motor Car Company, yeah.
then you went to
Ford.
we went right to Ford.
Yeah, I only had two jobs, Hudson Motor Car Company and Ford.
Okay.
My brother he had one job in his whole life, 50 years, he stayed at Hudson Motor Car Company.
Oh my gosh.
And Grandma, you went from the candy store.
Oh God, I was almost like Michelle. I had every job in the book. I worked in the dime store. I was an usher in the theater. I just did everything. Just any little job I could find. I went across the street and did housework for a lady. I mean, just at that time, you know, you were tickled to death to get. I think I cleaned her house upstairs for a dime. And
That kind of help's hard to get.
yeah,
I've been paying her 20 cents and complaining.
She's pretty good too.
but
When did you go to American Motors, or how long were you there before you retired?
I had my 30 and out.
Hudson Motors became American Motors.
But it was Hudson Motor. Raymond and I were there together when it was Hudson's. And then when they let loose, well, they transferred you over to American Motors. So I got a chance to get transferred. And I think you could have got transferred, could you? Or wow.
No,
His work.
well, I knew that the handwriting was on the wall, and we had a small chance of going to Cano. The engineering for Nash became part of Hudson Motor Car Company, or Hudson became part of Nash, and then it became that when they merged together, it became American Motors. But the only chance I would have had would have been to go to Kenosha, Wisconsin. So I took a leave of absence from Hudson Motor Car Company to go to Ford, because I knew that the handwriting was on the wall, and one or two of the people that went to Kenosha didn't like it there. Wages were lower, and groceries were higher, and we would have had to relocate.
Transferring to Ford was the best thing you did.
But I went to Ford's on a leave of absence. I didn't wait for Hudson Motor Car Company to close up. I took a year's leave, and my boss said, he says, "You sure you want to do this? Why don't you stay here?" 6 months after I moved to Ford, I'm walking down the hall, and who the hell do I pass by as my old boss? I mean, my big boss. From Hudson Motor Car Company.
But he became supervisor of mechanics, right?
Yeah.
There, so he got himself a good job, you know.
Well, we're down to our last minute of tape. So, Grandpa, last thing we have is, do you know a good joke?
I don't think I should.
This is your big chance.
I know some jokes today aren't too bad, but I don't think that I would want to put it down for posterity. But of course, I always remember some things I shouldn't, like jokes, but I don't know if I want to say it. I don't want it to go on. I wouldn't want it to go on record.
Okay.
I'll take
When you
it.
shut that off, I'll tell you.
Fair enough. Okay.
But I gotta be sure it's off.
I'll make sure I'll turn off the red light right now.
It's such a damn good. And the priest just looked at him and he said, "Father, I don't know when I ever heard a sermon that was as good as that damn sermon." And the priest says, "Wow," he says, I don't, he says, "I wish you wouldn't use that language," but he said, "No, that was the best damn sermon I ever heard." He says, "Father, I like that damn sermon so good, I put $5,000 in the collection basket." And the priest says, "No shit."